Museum Trust member to.
I've just gone live now. Just gone live.
Chair.
No, I'm all right, stand, it's fine.
I was going to say, there's someone behind you.
Right, okay, my name's Carol Van Turner and I'm the chair of the Albion Museum Trust. I took over from John Hadman in 2019, so obviously I've had the COVID years. Councillor Chapel suggested that I come and speak to the council. Basically, the museum is in crisis, and quite serious crisis. There's been a museum for over 25 years now, as a trust run by volunteers. When I first joined the committee in 2008, we had 15 of us on the committee. We are now down to 5, 2 of whom are, one's 94 and one's 83. And so we are struggling. We had a trust meeting last week, followed by a committee meeting the following day. And I'm here really just to tell you that, you know, we need more support, not only financial. We are pretty good, apart from we are making a loss each year. It's not a massive loss, but it is a loss still the same, and obviously it's over the last so many years. We need more stewards as well, but firstly, we desperately need more committee members to help run the museum. We just won't survive, and we are looking to probably close at the end of next year if we can't get more people involved. So our idea, we are going to go down fighting. We are going to try and get more people involved. We've got campaign ideas. It could be that we pay somebody, company, to do a campaign for us, but this could cost a lot of money. I've been told about £700 a month, so obviously that's a hell of a lot of money. So I just did one of these, printed off. I'll just give you one each. I've got that. This is what we're going to put out after this meeting. I want to come and speak because obviously we've got 3 trustees here. So this is what we're going to put out on Facebook and on our website. I was just going to finish really with a question that when the museum was first set up, a lot of the town councillors were very supportive of the museum. I don't know whether it was ever talked about being a town council museum, but it seemed to be at the time, the minutes I've looked at, they seemed to be quite happy with it being run as a volunteer committee. I don't think it should ever have been set up like that. They weren't thinking of the future, that people will leave and not want the responsibility, because it is a big responsibility. Trying to raise money, run the museum, get stewards, do the accessioning. We are an accredited museum as well, which we are proud of that. So basically we are on the same standing as the British Museum and any other big museum in the country. I can go to the British Museum tomorrow and I will be able to borrow stuff from them because we are an accredited museum. And I just think it would be so sad for the town if the museum went. So I wanted to say, really, I'm just going to leave on a question, really. I just wondered whether the town council actually saw the museum, the councillors saw it as an asset to the town, or whether we're just a hindrance, really, asking for grants now and again. So,
Sounds a pretty desperate situation.
We are really desperate.
Thank you. Tony, did you want to add anything to that?
Well, yes, if you don't mind. I think I've been the treasurer for the last 7 years, and it seems to me that the museum is a very important asset for the town. And it will be a huge loss if it goes. The archive contains an enormous amount of stuff about Elm's history and the surrounding villages.
Okay.
It will be a sad loss.
Thank you.
Carol, in terms of your depleted committee, the thing that one always gets asked in this situation, if you go around suggesting to people they join the committee, the first thing I want to know is, how often am I going to have to be involved with meetings, and what is the commitment? So could you give us just a brief idea of that, and equally a brief idea of what becoming a volunteer steward would entail? Certainly so that members of this council can go out there into the community and start trying to prod a few people.
Yeah, well, the commitment, if we start with stewarding, which we also need new stewards, the commitment for that would be a 3-hour stint on a Saturday or Sunday from March till October. And you could do as little as 1 session, 2 sessions, you could do 1 a month, something like that. The commitment for a person on the committee, you know, obviously the more people we have, the less commitment it is. It's, at the moment we have 10 meetings a year, which last an hour and a half. It's usually in the day, but this has always been questioned that we could move it to evenings if we get people that were working. But that's never happened so far. It does seem to be people, you know, our target market, I think, would be the newly retired, really, rather than people that are working, because I feel people that are working are not interested. But, you know, it's getting people, these newly retired people. So yeah, if you would join the committee, the commitment would be 10 meetings, the monthly meeting. We don't meet in August or December usually. We had a meeting last week because it's quite an emergency, really. We've sort of got to face the fact that we can't go on with 3 or 4 of us going on like it. We have been trying, even over the last 2 years, I put an advert almost every month in Elgin Life. There's on our website, we're always saying, would you like to help? You know, we have acquired, we haven't got a new treasurer, but we've got a new accounts clerk who's going to do the accounts. So that's a big weight off our shoulders. But it's everything else. It's the day-to-day stuff running the museum. So it could be, you know, once a month or 2 or 3 hours. It depends on how much time you have. A few of us usually meet on a Tuesday. One lady's been coming on every Tuesday morning for 2 or 3 hours, but that's quite a big commitment. It doesn't have to be that. It's very difficult because until we get more people involved, it's very difficult to say, right, this is going to take you this long and this is going to take you that long. I mean, I spend hours and hours and hours every month doing stuff in the museum, whether it's emails, meetings, you know, doing everything. I mean, in fact, I'm meeting a lady tomorrow. We are getting involved next year. Northampton Museum are going to do the history of Northamptonshire and 100 objects. I think the British Museum did something similar to Northampton Museum. I'm meeting a lady tomorrow and she's going to borrow something from our collection. We've been chosen as one of 100. So that's pretty good. So, you know, we are doing things, you know. We had presence this year at a couple of big festivals, one at Chester House Bar, and another one at Wixby Park, which was the Heritage Fair. So we are, you know, doing everything we can.
It's a trial, no worry. Councillor Sherwood.
Yes, I know it's got comfort, but unfortunately it's the case that many trusts and societies of this nature are struggling to get volunteers and trustees to join them on the board. I belong to 4 such organisations and all of them are struggling to attract volunteers and board members. Just to reiterate what Councillor Chapman's already said, certainly what we have learnt is that if you're trying to get people to join you, you've really got to articulate what is required in terms of time and input. Otherwise, people think it's an open-ended commitment. So if you are going to put a version of this out, you might want to think about that. And the other very small thought I had, of course, what we do have in this wonderful town is a very large school. We've got several schools, but one particularly large school, which does things like Duke of Edinburgh. And it could be that maybe they could be persuaded to include this within a Duke of Edinburgh type package. I don't know. Might be grasping at straws. I don't know, clutching at straws. But you know, you say this is a last-ditch attempt. You know, maybe having a word with the school, who of course are a very important part of the town's history.
Yeah. It's worth a try again. We did used to have students come from the school, because they think they have to do Wednesday afternoons.
Yeah.
They just have to do, yeah.
I think Prince William also did Duke of Edinburgh.
Yeah, we used to have quite a good relationship with Prince William as well. We used to have students come every year to the museum, and well, they did all sorts of projects and things. They had to come, but then that was axed, so we never heard from them again.
Well, the new head,
Yeah,
I can take a question from Councillor Corbyn.
Yeah.
sorry.
No, that's all. Because they have a new head, which might be a good time to re-ask the same question.
Yeah,
One thought I'd had is Oxfam in the town is staffed by mostly volunteers.
yes,
For the kind of demographic you'd be looking for, and not doing all works there, and then they have quite pool of volunteers. If it is a last ditch, is it worth popping in to say, will any of your volunteers like to take an additional
yeah, we
responsibilities?
could do,
Often the
yeah.
volunteers there work at Lifton as well, so there's a kind of
Yeah, we have got one of their volunteers who's on the committee, Jill, and she
okay.
is a volunteer as well, for Glasgow.
You mentioned about festivals as well. You've been at a stall at the Farmers Market or any events in the town where there's a group of people?
We have done it in the past, but not really since before COVID.
We've just done some market research on the market, and the demographic is skewed to where you'd be looking for
Yeah.
interested people looking to give back. Worth doing.
Yeah, might be worth doing something like that.
And for Councillor Mayfield.
Well, thank you. If, so to support this, we as a town council put out an appeal, perhaps through the advertiser, supplemented by individual approaches like individuals. I think we should appeal in the following terms, inviting people to come and have a go, as it were, trainee, probationary stewards, to their reaction will be, come in, the water's lovely.
That's a very good idea. Councillor Chester.
Yeah.
I wanted to say that there are levels, because you could be a trustee and only be at a meeting once in, is it 2 months or 3 months? Or you could be on the management committee. I think you sort of, there are 2 levels, if you like, management of the museum, and that requires a lot more input.
Yeah.
And the sort of thing that's a problem and tantalising in a way is the fact that if the museum could be open more, they could do a lot more in terms of activities and be more prominent in the community. But to do that, you've got to have the volunteers.
It's a little chicken and egg situation.
Yeah.
I'll take one more question because I'm just conscious that we've got a 15-minute gap. It's been very interesting, slightly sad moment, but I'm glad you've been here. Councillor Ragland, I think you have one more point.
We put out an appeal in writing or print, and also individual approaches. This is delicate, but I think we have to invite 2 levels. Obviously, people of the retired general or retired home secretary type, they might want to fall straight onto the committee. But it is fine or compulsory for the parallel to certain stewards first.
A number of ideas, so I'm sure you've got the support of everybody here on the council, and we wish you well. I think it would be worth talking to David for having an article, part of the next advertiser article to have some representation from you.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, and take your point about putting in, I did mention that to the Earl Greyford, that we need to sort of actually clarify that people will want to know that.
Outside of this, we'll talk to you.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you, and we wish you well.
Thank
Sure.
you.
I'm going to move to the next item on the agenda and invite Councillor Helen Harris to address the meeting. Welcome.
Thank you so much, and thank you as always for having me. And apologies, it's a little while since I was last here, but it's great to be back. I thought, with it being so topical, it's probably worth mentioning English devolution and what that might mean for us locally. I think that it's probably not going to affect our council elections in May, because we've obviously already been through the process of losing our district boroughs and county councils, and I'm currently a unitary council. So I think that our elections will be going ahead in May, as previously planned. The only thing that is likely to change for us in terms of how our local democracy works in the future is that you will probably have seen that all sort of, I don't know what they call them, districts, larger areas are going to have elected mayors. And so it looks as if the thoughts are, this is absolutely not a definite thing, but it looks like in the future, at some point, Northamptonshire, Milton Keynes, Bedford and Bedfordshire are likely to be going into a combined authority with an elected mayor over the top. I won't say what my thoughts are on all of that, but yes, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens in Cambridgeshire, Peterborough and Cambridgeshire, because they've got districts, boroughs and county, but they're already in the combined authority, so they're going to have to go through devolution to get themselves into a unitary authority, but they've already got an elected mayor, so I don't know what on earth's going to happen there. But what the elected mayor role is to take hold of strategic direction for a larger area, so they tend to then take control of things like money for highways, money for large infrastructure projects, education establishments, things like that. So it would, if it happens, I guess some of our unitary functions will go upwards, and there'll be, if it happens the way it does locally in our neighbouring Peterborough and Cambridgeshire, I think you have representatives from each of them. I think so. We just watch that space, but that's probably happening. So I was just thinking about things to update you on, obviously very specific to Oundle. My role now is to take up the issues that people send in to me and see if I can get them sorted out. So a knotty issue that I've had for months now is the flooding opposite the drill hall. I think you're probably all aware of that goes gushing down that narrow little area there and floods a particular house. It may be more than one house, but one particular resident who's been asking for my help sorting that out. I'm delighted to say that a report is about to be sent to me on Thursday, which will be saying what the solution is, i.e. there is some work that is going to be done and what the timeline is going to be. So I'm really looking forward to being able to tell my resident that after months of pushing and cajoling, we're getting there with that. And I think, the poor souls, they've had that flooding over and over again. So I'm really pleased that we're finally making some progress on that issue. Another issue that we've come to us so far successful conclusion to was some complaints about the waste disposal at the Greedy Piglets. It was all being great big bins stored out, overflowing on the pavement. To get our officers to take some action on that, and I believe that's now been satisfactorily resolved and it's been installed properly. My spies on the ground will tell me if that changes, and I'll be able to start, making a fuss again if that goes wrong. And then the other thing was just a few weeks ago, Councillor Clark got about the bus stops in Amble and cleaning and maintenance of them. And he said to me that he'd been told that we weren't doing any of that sort of work, NMC wasn't. So I better find out what the answers to all that are. He's absolutely right. These are all, as always, it's all historical. So some districts and boroughs had contracts for the cleaning and maintenance and some didn't. I think East Northants had far fewer in general anyway, and I think, I'm trying to read between the lines because the email's not 100% clear, but I think the ones in Amble were county council rather than district council. And in the whole movement over, we're gradually started to expand the areas in which there are contracts in place to do the maintenance. If somebody crashed into one of the bus stops here, it would be replaced and repaired and all of that. But day to day, looking after them, I'm afraid this financial year, there isn't any NMC council funds to look after them. However, there's a piece of work that is being done right now, and it's going to work. All our pieces of work have nice names, so I'm going to give you the title of it because it's something that hopefully we'll be able to all get involved in. So I had this out ready so I could tell you. Here we go. So it is, yes, it's just as simple as the local transport plan. So our local transport plan has been slightly delayed because of trying to get answers from government about funding and priorities and things like that. But, so I think it's probably easiest that I just tell you what it says here. So in the meantime, there's no funding available in 2024-25 to clean and otherwise maintain bus shelters. However, we are much more hopeful that in 25 to 26 we'll be able to consider such matters after the adoption of policy by council and their partners. This will include parish and town councils who traditionally have been responsible for shelters. In the case of Amble, they are Northants shelters, which I think must have meant they must have been county like that, the old county shelters, and they were purchased as part of the X4 capital package about 20 years ago. So I think the thing is that they are now looking at that, and because, well, we are at that point now where we are genuinely one council and disaggregation is almost entirely 100% complete now. So we should have a package, whatever we do in Kettering area, we should do in this part of the county, and so on. So I think we've got the opportunity now to, jump in there and say, we want there to be some programme for the maintenance and cleaning of our bus shelters and replacement of them, as and when. And that needs to be built in. But the positive bit was, I've been told there is no money, so it's like, well, doom and gloom, but it looks like that's going to open up and there's going to be availability next year. So I'll be making the point that we need that for this area as well as everywhere else. And hopefully what they're going to be doing is, I'm sure, you know what it's like, we get these emails coming, could give your views on this and how does that Amble Town Council want to work with us on this or respond to this. So although I haven't got the perfect answer for you right now, I think there is potential for the future that this isn't a hopeless case. So those are kind of the three particular Amble issues that I've been working on recently. And I think that's pretty much my little report for now. But obviously I'm here as much so for you to ask questions of me and raise issues that you may have. So over to you guys.
Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, I'm very interested in bus shelters. In the mayor's report that we're considering later on in the meeting, he attended another meeting and there was a report by Councillor Carr on town and parish council, where it was said that the parish council is responsible for bus shelters. So I'm kind of curious as to who actually is responsible. And one of the reasons I ask is not so much about cleaning the things. It strikes me that bus shelters, particularly since we have a very large one right in the centre of the marketplace, if we have some responsibility or say over them, they will provide an excellent place to actually give information about the town and the actions of the town council. Because at the moment, they actually look rather dull and uninteresting.
I think that's spot on. So Councillor Carr, I'm assuming, is John Paul Carr from Chis.
Yes, that's the one.
Village Parish Council. Yes, so that would be the situation where it's the parish council who's responsible for their shelters. And I think that's pretty much the point that's being made in this email to me, that over the next year, we're going to be talking to councils about, I guess, do you want to take on this this asset and make it yours? Obviously, that'll be just because you're not going to want to take on something that's going to end up costing the town council loads and loads of money. So there'll obviously be lots of things to talk about and think about. But if it were your own, if it was the town council's, all that sort of thing could happen. And a lot of town councils do, and parish councils do look after their own.
Advertise the museum, for example.
You could indeed. So I think that's exactly what's envisaged in, as we go forward with this plan, talking to town councils. Yeah, sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, in parish councils, they've probably got one or two.
Yeah.
We've got about 7 or 8.
Rather more, indeed.
And that's a lot more money.
But they are in key positions, though, aren't they?
Very key positions.
They are, but they're costly.
Councillor Harris, I'd say that's part of what's going to be discussed in next year. I think
Yeah.
we can do at the moment, and to take on that responsibility and that funding to support the feeding of the shelters, it would be a tough call.
I mean, I was term, and so we're probably, in terms of our member empowerment fund monies running low, I haven't got an awful lot left to spend before to help people with projects before the end of May. And I'm just trying to think whether something like, putting money towards cleaning of bus shelters would qualify. It's a difficult one, unless you sort of had a big community event where you all got together and the town council arranged for a big community event. I'm wondering whether that would even fit with that sort of thing. But so right now I have a small amount of money, but whether Jason, I should say, will have any funds left, it might be worth asking them. But then if we were going to try to use it for something to do with bus stops, we're going to have to make sure it's something that helps. Whereas rather than just spending money on cleaning something. So I'm not sure it'll work, but we might be able to think of some clever way of making it work.
So we have some action tonight to the two councils to see if they've got any money and how would we get hold of that?
So if you decide that, obviously go onto the NMC website and just read the rules around what the funds can be used for first.
Which one?
It's the Member Empowerment Fund, so shortened to MEF.
I think rather than making a decision now, because technically we can't, it's worth putting it on the January agenda.
Yes, I think we can do some research between now and then, and that's make a decision next time.
I think that's a good idea, and I'm almost certain we couldn't be doing cleaning, but if you did it in a different way, it's possible. And I would just say again, just think about the elections are in May, PERDA will start around about the beginning of March, so we won't be able to spend any money on anything then, so it all has to be done before that.
So it's research maybe in January, but not today.
Yeah.
Any other questions, councillors? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You may have an update. I'd like to see something from the county council. Yeah, so thank you for that.
Well, happy Christmas to you all. Did you mind if I scoot off now? Thank you.
Okay, back to the agenda then. Item 240801 under town matters. A report to receive a report regarding cancellation of the market due to adverse weather.
Yeah, I haven't really got a report, because I was going to try and put together what money we've lost, but we're still dealing with the refunds and things from the market stores. But I would say we've probably lost out on about £3,000, and obviously we've not taken in any income, and that doesn't factor in all of the hours of work all the staff did leading up to the market. So very disappointing, but the right decision all round, I think.
it was the right decision. We have a kind of better idea of cost in January, perhaps.
Yeah, it's, I won't be able to tell you, the biggest cost would probably be staff. I'm not going to be able to tell you what that is, because we haven't written down all of our hours that we've worked on it. And we've got 4 or 5 members of staff all working on it.
But when we get to January, will we have an idea by January meeting?
What, I won't be able to give you staff costs, so you won't get, all you'll get is how many fee firms we've given and what we've spent that we're not going to recoup. Some of the expenditure we will be able to, like things like the presents in the grotto, we've got them now for next year. The marshals didn't invoice us. I mean, we are going to get some money back from the medical cover, but not all. The Santa's Grotto, they're going to give us back the money, but keep the deposit for next year. So, you know, it's not all doom and gloom, but there will be some.
Any comments or questions? Or,
I think we should just record that we support, the decision that was made.
Thank you.
yeah, it was absolutely the right decision. A lot of angst went into that.
Let's tell me that.
Yes. Emma, generally, what reaction have you had from traders and from residents?
Out of the 100 traders, we had 2 that were, to do this stuff. Well, one in the beginning of the week was when we were saying you might be able to bring the gazebo. It was like, this is ridiculous, like that. We never heard from him on the Thursday when we actually cancelled. And we just had one other that said, it's a bit late to cancel on the Thursday, but we'd spoken to them on the Monday to say that there's a potential that you won't be able to bring the gazebo, and there may even be a potential that it's cancelled. So I don't know how much more notice you can give to somebody.
So traders generally understanding, residents,
So two people.
anything from residents?
A couple of things on Facebook, but then the other residents commented, told them to be quiet.
Bit like we didn't order that snow machine.
That would be great. We managed to twist your arm into a green.
Okay, next item, update on the request to reinstate the lighting in Danford Close. So, I can't remember,
It's something that he is.
It's in the report.
It's in there, I don't, there's usually,
Say, is it okay for him to speak to Lee and try and take it further?
so nothing to add on to what the.
Oh, then I think we do agree that Ian carries on.
Yeah, good. And we move on to council matters then, item 241901, to receive the mayor's report. Any questions on the mayor's report? I think the 4 items, or 3 items actually, I'd like to just highlight from there. One was, particularly in the absence of Councillor Fuller, it's been mentioned that there have been very few responses to the police action survey. So if we can encourage people to do that, I think the more we can do, and maybe, although there's already been quite a lot out, because without that, we're not going to get our voice heard. Ian's also particularly talked about success on Fix My Street. I think you had some success on Fix My Street.
Absolutely,
So-
Fix My Street on pavements, definitely use it.
The more we can do on that, the better. So that's it. We'll move on to item 241902 to receive the clerk's report. We've got that in front of us. Any questions or comments on the clerk's report?
Yeah, I had some correspondence bit of the report.
While we're waiting for you to find
I
that.
just found it, sorry. I think, so there's this question about Flettenfield Association and concern. I think you've actually responded to that already, haven't you?
Yeah, that was what we discussed at the November meeting, and I put together a response. We were looking to have a sort of standard response, but because all the 3 letters, they were all very different, and I felt that you did need, if they raise questions, you need to answer those questions.
Yeah.
So between myself, Tony and Jerry.
So that's all, that can be ticked
Yeah.
off. And then the second one was in relation to the overgrown patch in the rec ground. Again, this has been discussed in the States more than once. I don't know whether or not you and I need to talk about that discussion in the States about.
I've spoken to,
So you know
yeah,
about
I know about that,
Yeah.
and about we had a conversation today about
Lisa will know all about it.
what we're doing with it. A couple of concerns with that, obviously, it's really, I don't know if you've seen it, brain.
It's about timing as much as anything
Yeah, and
else.
it's also about knowing where we put all that stuff, that's,
So you've got the information you need to respond.
Yeah,
That's fine, that's all right, just checking.
Okay, thank you. A couple of items from me. And look at Emma, to Lisa. But there's rarely anything in the update column. Is that because there's no update? There's no reason to have an update column?
what in that actual correspondence. I mean, it gets picked up and obviously goes to the letters came here. And then that goes on my report, and then we've actually got an action from there. I mean, it comes to us, and then either Lisa puts it on States, I bring it here, so I deal with it.
So the update should be referred to Estates or referred to the council.
Yeah, it's just getting time to write that in there.
Next item, 241903, to receive the property valuation for the public conveniences. Have you received that? Any comments on that? Councillor
I
Chester?
thought we can buy a house for that. I've had so many bullets.
Well, it's actually gone down from the original valuation that we got, I think it was done in 2017, was actually higher, so it's gone down. Good amount of money.
It's stunning, isn't it?
I mean, I was going to say, I clearly could never get a job as a builder.
Or maybe he could.
I privatise, we love it.
And then he maybe put the comma in the wrong place.
Or it should, full stop. Anyway, we'll move on. No further action on that, I presume that is just.
No, it's just received, yeah.
Okay. Next item, 241904, to receive the November report update. Do you receive? No action, no comment? Next item, we'll receive perhaps a little more comment, 241905, to receive an update regarding the OTC ban and consider next steps. Anybody wants to kick off on that particular subject, or?
That's been discussed in the States more than once, as is alluded to in this document. Where I'm slightly confused is in the, well, I think the comments are useful, Emma's comments are useful. I don't know who the author of the document is.
Yeah, I responded, yeah.
There's one comment you said where you say, Emma, Nobby thinks the mower he has been looking at could be driven, but I don't know what mower.
Yeah, you see, when this all started, obviously I spoke to him. We had a conversation about the mower that we've got at the moment. Realised how old it was. And I just said, we perhaps should have a plan of how we're going to replace it. So I asked him, I said, can you look into some mowers? But then this obviously, and then happened, and Ian did it as well, so.
Yeah.
And then between that, I've had another company come and speak to me, but for me, I think the mower and the van is very separate.
Yeah, and I think also, unless anybody has got anything useful to input right now, this is something for the Estates to look at.
I was going to say.
And then it states to come back to full council with a recommendation. You can't make a decision now. If there's any input people want to give to Estates now, it's a good time, but actually, this is an Estates matter, not a full council matter at this stage.
So put this, I think, on the next Estates agenda.
Yeah, but I do think, really, instead of councillors sitting in the room discussing lawn mowers, I really think you need to listen to the maintenance team before you even sit down and discuss it.
Which is why the document's useful, but I think the response has to come from the States, and then the States make a recommendation to council.
Yeah, definitely.
And this was discussed very briefly at the FGP with the same conclusion. The only question was that when you come back to full council from the stage, we have a total cost of ownership rather than just cost of purchase and maintenance. Okay, wonderful.
Sorry, can I ask something? Just as a question on this, we're renting one at the moment.
We've, the guys are picking up tomorrow. It's a company in Arundel, and it's literally just, a vehicle that we've got to use between now until we sort something out permanently.
Is that your question?
Well, no, the question is obviously that's a cost, so is that met by the insurance company or is that met by the council?
No, we've received the amount of money for our van now.
Oh, okay, so that is that, so we need to consider, so we need to kind of think about if you've got a working van and another van, can you manage off one? Because renting long term is, well, which is another reason for us to make decisions quickly.
Indeed.
I've spoken to the guy today, in the, speak to him about, various options that you can do with fast vans and whether we lease one or whether we rent to buy, or we just, he's got loads of different vans that we can utilise. So
Hopefully when the states look at this in January, perhaps some numbers, so either in January or February, the full council can make a decision based on the state's recommendation. Thank you. Anything else to add on this? Wonderful. 241906 to receive the report from Town Parish Forum meeting. This is at the beginning of the mayor's report. Very interesting potential. I'll move on. 241907 to consider the enabling remote attendance and proxy voting at local authority meetings consultation. It's quite a title. And agreed response. So that's. Do you want to just give us an overview?
Yeah, this is something that also came off the back of COVID. So when COVID hit, we were all, a bill was passed, temporary bill, where we could all go on to meetings via Zoom. And I think it was thought that would continue, but the government decided no. But now they're looking at it again. So now they've gone out to consultation. You can fill it out individually as a councillor. And as a clerk, I have filled it out, put my views in, or we can put a collaborative response in. Having completed the survey, it's not just 4 questions, it's a lot of questions.
Okay.
I don't think we really want to go through it tonight, but the main questions is whether you would support having meetings where people can join remotely, whether you would allow them to vote if they're joining remotely. There is, you could say we could have a whole meeting that's all done online by Teams or something, various different ways. So I don't know whether you just want to go off and fill it out yourself.
What's the deadline?
It's not far off. Just see if we've got, I can forward, I've got the email open, obviously shut it, from Danny Moody that's got the link. I think I sent it a couple of weeks ago.
Well, something again, I suspect the deadline will be too close for us to get
10th of January, but I don't know whether that's
too close for us to get a combined opinion. So perhaps what we should do is complete it individually unless something kicks off.
I mean, unless you've got a view now, whether you're, I can't find the,
I don't tend to go through the questions on a consultation at a meeting like this, which has been.
yeah, it's huge. I mean,
It's A, too long, and B, I don't like drafting by committee, it doesn't work. So, unless anybody's got anything to add, given the deadline that you mentioned, I think we need to complete it individually. And perhaps when the minutes go out, draft minutes go out, then there could be another paragraph reminding those councillors not here that they need to complete the consultation document.
unless you wanted to think about it, just to say whether you think it would be a good idea or not. Yeah.
Well, for me, I think it's a great idea.
Well,
Why not? Councillor Chapel.
I think see no problem with having people attending by proxy, although I would be slightly disappointed if we ended up in a situation where the majority of meetings all took place remotely, because you don't then get the interaction that you could have, for example, today, with representatives of the museum. And I don't have a problem with people voting if they're attending a meeting in that way. What I might have more of a problem with is people voting who, for whatever reason, don't participate in the meeting, but nevertheless vote. I would have a reservation.
There are questions that are, where it says, how many meetings would you expect, for people to be, attending remotely? You can say whether you don't want to have meetings where you're all remote. It's just whether you've got some people that can't attend for whether childcare reasons or whatever. So if you have a look at the questions, a lot of those concerns are in there, and you can put your view.
So a question around whether individuals themselves should attend a minimum number of live meetings. So you can't have one councillor, for example, having 12 remote meetings.
And never coming,
There is already a rule about that.
There is, if you miss 6 in a row, I think,
So, I mean, well, I think, yes, if I might just finish, it's opening up quite a wide area, isn't it? So it probably as well to the individual responses.
If you could send out that one.
I'll send out an email again, and then you've got it. There's 3 or 4 different contemplations, and it's the first one on that. So I'll send that out to you, and then we can go and have a look at it out. It's worth doing, I think. It really is worth doing.
We don't say anything, we won't get heard. So thank you.
It's just a bit longer than I thought it would be.
Next item, to receive a letter of thanks from the Royal British Legion, which is very nice of them to write to us. I don't know if anybody wants to add anything to that. No, next item, 24100909, to Rotary Club solicitor and consider next steps. I think in view of the special and or confidential nature of this item, I propose we defer this until the end of the meeting, unless anybody objects. No? Wonderful. Move on then to financial matters, item 241101, to approve the monthly accounts for November 2024. Bit late for 1994. Along with the monthly bank balances, do I have assuming no questions, do I have that approval? Councillor Chapel, thank you. Do I have somebody who would second that? Councillor Shearer, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 241102, payments for November 2024. Propositions of the schedule of payments in November 2024 as presented at this item are paid up. Again, presuming no questions, I'll ask for somebody to propose that those payments are made. Councillor Shearer, thank you. And a seconder for those payments. Councillor Rycroft, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. 241103 to receive the F&GP Purchase Committee meetings for the meeting held last Tuesday. We don't need to approve those, just any questions or comments or decisions made by F&GP? Seeing none. To approve the next one, item 241104, to approve the balancing grant of 27,406 for the QVH. That, of course, amount will finally depend on the actual financial force of QVH, of course, but we need to approve that at this meeting. So I'd like a proposal for that, please. Councillor Chapel, thank you. Councillor Chester will second, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Next item, 241005, is to approve the budget for 2025-2026. This was looked at by F&GP last week, We looked at it as a council in November 2024, and at that stage, and still, the FGP recommend that there's a 0% increase in the annual precept, and we will cover any overspend, budgeted overspend from reserves. They currently stand at over £500,000. And next month, the FGP will recommend we only need to hold 6 months spending as a reserve, so that we've got some better sense of where our budgeting processes can start. So, with that proposal from FGP, do I have? It's not. It's a proposal from FGP, isn't it? So I need somebody to propose it tonight. It's a recommendation.
It's going to the full council to approve it.
Yeah, so a recommendation with FGP for 0% budget. Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Chapman again. Thank you very much. Can I have a second, please? Councillor Shurer, thank you. All those in favour? Brilliant. Thank you very much. So the next item, 2411-006, to approve the precept 565-3 for 25-26. Of course, that's consequential on previous minutes, so I'm assuming we'll agree with that.
You better propose it, because otherwise it's going to be nonsense.
Proposed, Councillor Chapel, can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Shurer, thank you. Next item is 241007, to receive a report from the CAB and to approve a 1-year budget spend of £10,500 for 2025. So before I make any comments myself, I wonder if those who've read the report have any views. Councillor Rycroft.
More a question than a view. So I assume that it's not covered in our budget. It's coming completely fresh out of the blue, pretty well. And this is the first time the CAB in recent years have actually asked for anything.
I think we were aware, we supported the CAB when they told us initially they couldn't attend anymore. We provided support for them for, I think, 3 months.
Yes.
And at the end of that 3 months, we asked them to give us their recommendation or their proposal to.
So, although I appreciate the CAB do a sound and solid job in the community, in fact, when I first came to Arundel, before I got elected to district, I did a bit of volunteering for the CAB. However, I'm not keen for us to be bounced into agreeing such a large sum of money just inside one meeting. Now, what I would recommend is we take the question away individually, reflect, and it is possible for us to do so in January, decide then one way or another.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions or views before we go on? Councillor Shurer.
Thank you. I'm very much in support of what's already been said. I mean, they have a very interesting document that has been tabled in front of us, but there's nobody here to ask questions in relation to it. And I think the document does actually beg some questions that I would certainly like to have answers to before moving forward with a 10K allocation.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Chester.
Would like
You agree to? Brilliant. We're getting a consensus. Councillor Chapel.
I'm not going to disagree with that, but obviously there's a precedent, because years ago we were a big financial backer to the former East Northants CAB. But bearing in mind how that ended, what I would say is that if we in due course do approve it, we should approve it on the basis of paying so much a month, rather than paying them £20,000 in case something awful happened and we ended up losing lots of money again. I think one split and twice share.
Thank you. Very, very interesting. Any other comments from?
No, I know myself, it's a very important thing to have locally. And obviously, we don't really see the people that go through it, but there will be people that will use it. And I would be in agreement with the fact it would be quite useful to have them here to talk about their work and what they do and kind of tell us a bit more about it, really.
I agree. Second. who did what we the day dropped in during the pilot, which was more than I had thought it would be. Question is about that to go up, or is that the main goals of people are already sorted? I think it's worth doing it.
Wonderful.
And if there's a community service, I think we should explore.
Yeah, I can speak to Bill and see if he can come to the January meeting.
Okay, wonderful. I'm in agreement with everybody else, actually. It's a lot of money. I do think it's a valuable service that we should be supportive of, but in the right kind of way, and subject to somebody coming along and giving us the answers we might want to see. So if we can arrange that for January, that would be lovely. Thank you. The next item, 24110008, to approve marketing manager to do the National Employment and Markets Administration at a cost of £1,250. Again, I invite comments.
It was just, I did have a look at it. There's quite a lot of information there that where I can learn. And she's asked if she can do it, so I said I'll bring it. And there is money in the budget.
And we actually got the capacity, given she's working pretty hard on her hours at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who asks to do training, it doesn't happen very often. So, I sort of embrace it, and I'm sure she's considered that. It is, I think there's an overnight stay, and it's across, but then it's sort of online learning for the remainder of it. So
It's a big thing. She thinks she can do it. That's good news. Anybody have any questions at this?
I have a comment. I think I like the idea of people who are out there acting on my behalf to actually be qualified. It's sort of like going to the doctors.
So before I ask for anyone to propose this, unless anyone else has got a view, the only question I have is, will you be overseeing the work that she's doing, or are you just leaving her to it?
I mean, I can talk to you about it, but I think the assignments and things that she's done will go back to whoever's training. I won't expect to look at that because I won't know whether it's right or wrong.
I'm just thinking, just making sure that it happens, but if you're comfortable with learning, then fine.
Yeah, no,
Okay, so do we have a proposal? I'm happy to propose this. Do I have a second? Councillor Chapel, thank you. Are you in favour of that investment? Good, excellent. Moving on to highway matters, 2411. First item, 241101, to receive the speed indicator device report. Have you received any comments from anybody? Item 241102, to consider the proposal to make Blackpot Lane one lane. I invite comments, Councillor Shearer.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what we're being asked to do. I mean, we have a proposal. I mean, are we being asked to support it or criticise it? I mean, I see no reason why it shouldn't go ahead personally, particularly since so few properties and effectively the school is the only thing that's affected by it. And it does seem to make sense in terms of safety in what is a very congested part of the road anyway. So I think that's a consideration, but I have no problem with the proposal. But I'm not quite sure what we're being asked to do.
We've just been asked to respond.
yeah, it's like anything highways related. It's like when you have the double yellow lines, they always ask the council views first before they then move further on it.
It's just a consultation. So thank you, Councillor Chapel.
I mean, it seems to me that it's something that this council has considered on multiple occasions and wanted it to happen. And now it looks as if it actually might. I have to say, not before time. It's just crazy as a system at the moment where half the road is one way and the other half isn't. And you come down from Lawson Road at your peril because somebody will turn out of the Gascoigne building, head up in the opposite direction and park cars. No, it's chaos. So I would hope this council is fully supportive.
Wonderful. Any other, Councillor
Well,
Gordon?
I've got two things. One is obviously traffic calming, which is something to be asked, but I'm going to look at that. and also street furniture signage to notify this. Can we not go over the top and it be permanent? Because that's what happens, like the bridge, the Barnwell Bridge still has, you know, a new road layout ahead. And that's been there for years.
Oh, I see.
So it just takes clutter, you know, it's clutter on roads and pavements. So it's just something to consider.
I think the other thing that came out of thank you. The other thing that came out of the transport report was provision for cyclists. So I think if you can respond on our behalf with those considerations, traffic calming measures, one-way provision for cyclists. I think otherwise this council did full support. So there's been asked for and is in the transport report itself. So do we need to vote on that, or we?
No, if you're all in support, if you're all in support of it, then that's what I'll say, and I'll just mention those views.
Wonderful. In which case, move on to planning matters, 241101 to receive minutes from the planning committee meeting held on the 26th of November 20. Seeing none, we'll move on to estates management committee to receive, the first item is to receive the minutes report from the estate committee meeting on the 3rd of December 2024. Max, do you have anything to add to those minutes?
No, absolutely nothing to add. I will, however, endeavour to answer any questions that relate to the minutes.
Hearing none. Good, we'll move on. The next item from volunteer action, I think we'll defer that until after this meeting is closed, unless anybody objects to that. Seeing none. Councillor Ryfield.
I studied a very valuable summary, which I surmise David Chapman made.
Probably. We're going to defer until after the meeting. So any discussion on this paper?
Let's see. Well, actually, is this something we need to discuss excluding the public?
Yes.
Oh, fair enough, yes. So,
I should make that clear, I apologise. So we will invite the comments, of course, but after the end of this, the public meeting. Trees around the power lines at the cemetery. Max, do you want to make any comments on this?
I don't, well, there is a request. I think we just need to adhere to that request. You know, we can't have the power lines coming in.
Absolutely. Does anybody want to add anything to that? We just in support of it.
Let's probably do it.
Got to do it. Thank you. We move on to item 24114, the Markets Working Party. And first item there is to receive an update and consider recommendations. But summary of the update and
Thank you.
we'll then move on to the if we get the summary, Max, and then.
Okay, sorry. Okay, may I answer your question? So there's a summary in here which is pulling together all the outputs from the survey. We had 129 responses, several online, some in person on Thursday market and the Saturday market as well. What we're going to do is summarise the key recommendations up front, and then before we break down the work, we'll come to the next steps in a second. We've engaged with stallholders and market users, and also non-market users who are not there to understand why perhaps they don't engage with the market. In terms of key recommendations, we split it into zero recommendations and then those that would incur cost. So things we can do up front and already have to some extent done already in terms of bus routes to the market is being rolled out. It was an issue when we spoke to residents. We needed to understand which market stalls people might want to see about the market. You can see the answers in there. Mainly thinking about craft stores and new food stores. So I've mentioned that as well. Particularly pointed out that 70% of users pay on card. So if we're approaching new traders, that's something we can state very clearly to them, but they need to be mindful of the way people pay for these things. There's a suggestion of offering market slots to regular traders the food festival and Christmas market, so having the cross talk between the different events, which doesn't happen at the moment necessarily. Also keeping a record with the traders that have expressed an interest previously, so we're going to be rolling stock, a list of traders who might be interested in the future, particularly thinking about the summer slots, so we know traders going to be on holiday, and this year we had several weeks period of vacancies on the market, which led to a feeling of decline. It was actual fact, it was holiday vacancies. We can preempt that. We know the traders are going to be away at certain times, and we go back to our various comments around enhancing the market atmosphere, which suggested perhaps buskers, which is a low and cost, zero cost approach, perhaps bringing in the school. So that was something we flagged. Something I think is particularly important, we've touched on it already tonight with the museum volunteers. Can we have a stall once a week that's reserved for a community group or a local business that wants a shop front? Or look the infrastructure to have their own gazebo. Can we have an Admiral Town Council gazebo and table such that there's a stall reserved for them? It sort of reduces the entry level for these individuals. The final point is that this survey was helpful, but it's not all summed up. If we make any changes or recommendations, we need to understand how well it's going. My proposal would be that we would repeat the market survey in Q4 next year against the same parameters to understand if there's traction being made on the footfall and the revenue on general atmosphere in the market. Those are the three things. In terms of the cost, we discussed electricity at length, and that's a separate conversation that's taking place. It's ongoing. Mentioned about the Arnhem Town Council granted gazebo and tables. We've discussed whether there's a need or desire to have seats and tables to go with the food stalls. That's a broader conversation about the strategic direction of the market based on what foods and what stall we think are desired in the future. And then a couple of cheap and cheerful ideas is a bit of branding. We have the Facebook pages, but can we have some Love Handle Market bags, Thursday and second Saturday of them, so there's visibility, and then it's the same for the banter and stickers. So there's a few relatively low cost things there. The full analysis is below, but the next steps.
I'll move on to next steps in a moment, but given the report that has been put together by Roger, I have questions. I think Matt, you had a question.
Well, in a sense, maybe you already covered it. My question was really about what the next steps are. I mean, we've got these recommendations, some at zero or marginal costs, and then at costs. I'm not quite sure what councillors being asked to approve, whether or not we're being asked to approve the zero cost recommendations. It's obviously difficult to approve the at cost ones without some notion of what the cost is.
Let me go through what we proposed to be the next steps, and we can debate it further if necessary or as necessary. Having got this report, having had the survey and got some results from it, 129 responses is not bad.
It's very good. It's very good.
It's very good to market. So I think we're quite pleased with what's come out. What we need to do now, I think, or what we propose to do next, is to have 3 or 4 meetings, not for their own sake, but to take us forward. The first meeting we will have is with the Thursday traders, and then separately with the Saturday farmers market traders, to share the results of this report, to get their feedback on what we found, because they may have ways of expanding on or decrying what we've been told. There may be practical reasons that we stopping us proceeding. There may be other ideas which come out from that meeting. So next step 1 would be to have that meeting with the traders. That would be the market group working group, which is Ian Clark, Ron and me. So we've got the input from the traders. Then we're going to meet with Emma and with Morag so we can share everything that we found out, not just in the survey, just say, here's all the feedback, what can we do next? And then we'll come back to council with recommendations and with proposals. So probably February 2025, because we've got a lot of work to do during January 2025 to two lots of traders and to meet with the marketing manager and the town clerk to take these ideas forward. One of the other things we wanted to do is to meet with the OBA, perhaps even have an open meeting for the townsfolk themselves, certainly with the OBA, because one of the things we may have seen in the report is that a number of people who come to the market then use that as an excuse to go elsewhere in town. So they come to the market specifically and then go elsewhere. And we know that some shops are slightly resentful of the market, and this may be some way of trying to smooth that relationship between the town and the market. So we want to also promote this to the OBA. But the idea is we come with a full report to council in January, or more likely in February, with costing proposals as required. Councillor
So essentially all we're being asked to do at the moment is to receive this, and we will wait for whatever a more, whatever costed proposal in February. That's fine. Some markets, and of course ours is a very ancient market, over 1,000 years old, have this bylaws. I'm just wondering, does actually have any bylaws pertaining to it? Such as street performances, for example.
That's a very good question.
We have the terms and conditions for the market traders and the charter. I've not seen bylaws for the market.
Well, in that case, surely we can do without them.
Well,
Somebody screams.
I wasn't necessarily making that proposal, just making sure that we're happy with any bylaws that refer to the market.
It would be worth just checking to see if we can see any bylaws, and then we're not making any proposals to traders, which are then going to be quashed because we can't do anything.
Just a slight add-on, and I don't know whether you really want to consider this. As I've already said, the market is a very ancient market, and one of the older markets in the country. But the town was also, in case you're not aware of this, granted the rights for a fair, an annual fair, Ascension Day.
Okay,
Maybe you want to designate that.
maybe we will add it in. Well, I'm actually seriously, we ought to make a note of that as part of the minutes in case we want to do
I
it.
think technically we can still have a fair on Ascension Day.
Yeah.
In case you're wondering when that is, it's 39 days after Easter.
Thank you. You saw that.
It's on a Thursday.
Monday,
It's a Thursday. No, it's on a Thursday. 39 days after Easter is a Thursday.
yes. it will be.
Ascension Day is always a Thursday.
Is this something to do with the market? Is this what we have it on the market?
No, it's in the charter. It's not to do with the market, it's part of it.
Okay.
Just
So do
saying.
you want me to write that down?
No.
Probably doesn't.
Any other comments on the market report or our proposal as to next steps? Councillor Chesser.
I think one of our biggest problems is actually the existing shop owners who are around. They've resisted the markets like mad, and obstruct the market and obstruct the store. There's a lot of work to be done.
There is.
with them.
I mean, I think we are hopeful in the markets working group that the fact that people come to the market and then go to the rest of town.
They've been told all that. I mean, you can try.
We can try.
I don't want to knock what you're doing, but that is our biggest problem in my view.
Yeah, well, it may well be, and we may get nowhere, but as you say, we should try.
Yeah.
Councillor Chapman.
I think it's a terrific piece of work. So first of all, thank you to the working group. But circulating that to the Annual Business Association also.
We will be presenting to
Because there is a lot of stuff in there, and I think it might open a few lines. But picking up from Councillor Jess's.
Yes,
That's certainly.
That's it for now.
So, wonderful, thank you. If nothing else, we'll move on to item 24.115, Communications Working Party, and just to receive the latest annual advertiser article, which I have to say is pretty good.
Yeah.
Rebecca, I think, is doing a great job. Any comments on the advertiser article?
I've got a comment you probably won't want.
Go on
Well, the information about the Arundel town being passed from Henry to his wives is quite true. It was actually technically passed in 1542 to Catherine Howard, and then Catherine passed, so only two of his wives, not his wives generally.
then. I leave that with Councillor Fuller, who gave the information.
I don't think any of the other wives are going to complain.
Or will be in a position to. Thank you. Item 24.116, any other relevant matters for report only? Councillor Hall, Councillor Fuller, Councillor Chapel.
Two, if I may. On Saturday, I attended the Annual Choral Society concert in St Peter's, which I'm delighted to say was a sellout. It was an extremely good concert. The feedback I heard from it was universally good. Everybody who went to it got a programme, and the programme ends by saying the Society is extremely grateful for the support of Arundel Town Council, whose generous grant allows us to continue providing 2 concerts each year, each including professional artists and soloists. I suspect that will get us a good deal of kudos, as it were, within those people who attend that event.
Very positive, thank you for that.
Other related points actually, gave the grant to Arundel Primary School for their new minibus, and in their recent newsletter, which goes to the whole school community, it specifically mentioned their gratitude to Arundel Town Council. So again, similar principle, to see.
Good. On a slightly less cheerful note, NMC has just granted planning permission for the development of Stoke Royal Road, which is another 50 houses to add to 260 that have already got permission on the other 2 allocated sites in Arundel. That means that all 3 sites that were allocated for the development in the period to 2031 in the local plan part 2 now have planning permission for development, of course are actually underway already. And I see no signs of any infrastructure development running parallel to these developments. And it's a little bit of a pity that Councillor Harrison isn't here to hear this, because I think this council will be extremely disappointed.
I agree.
Is there any way of expressing our disappointment in a meaningful way?
This is items for report only, but I guess we have that discussion, can we? Do we write, can we just write the express?
Well, I mean, we haven't given enough objections, leading up to it. I would imagine that it would be looked at.
I would perhaps suggest as a follow-up to that, that we put it on the next planning meeting agenda, and if the planning committee wants to raise the issue on behalf of the council with NMC, I'm sure that the full council would be happy enough for it to do it.
If you need to make that decision, we can make it next time. It's the infrastructure, if they're going to do it, the infrastructure should be there. Yes, as you said, on a slightly more serious note. Anything else? Yeah. That's sure.
Nothing further.
That's all I've got. Councillor Chesser. Emma, the stand clerk.
I haven't got it.
Okay, in which case I will call the meeting to a close at 8.
Did you want to just do a proposer, get a proposer and a seconder? You'll need a proposer and a seconder to close.
To close the meeting, okay? Councillor
I propose that, understanding order 3A, and in view of the special and confidential nature of the business about to be transacted, that the public be instructed to withdraw.
There's a praise for you.
That's almost word for word what I should have said. So we have a proposal. Yes, whereas I haven't. We have a proposal, do we have a seconder for that? I'll second that. This is in case anybody doesn't want to. We vote on that. All in favour, thank you. So this part of the meeting is closed. And when the hour finishes, we can